time. Now is the time to ask yourself whether you have a moral compass or not. And honestly, after watching this interview, no moral compass, especially as it pertains to Israel. It's disgusting.
I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you mean?
Well, we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza.
But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40.
You voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents.
Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
I don't know the answer to that.
I think you do. I think you do know the answer to that. Well, Democratic Senator Elissa Slotkin made an appearance over at Breaking Points where she was grilled by hosts Saagar and Enjeti and Krystal on a whole host of issues. Much of the conversation focused on the ongoing genocide in Gaza, but they also did touch on the Epstein files and the future of the Democratic Party. We'll have a link to the full interview in the description box if you want to watch the whole interview, and I do recommend it. It's not too long and it's worth watching in its entirety. But for the purposes of this discussion, I wanted to focus on the portion of their discussion that pertains to Gaza and the current behavior of the Israeli government and the IDF. Because to me, no story really highlights how little political labels make sense these days than the way Elissa Slotkin handled the questions coming from the likes of Saagar and Enjeti and Krystal. And they asked fantastic questions, important questions, questions that I wish were almost a given, regardless of which media entity is interviewing her. But alas, you have to rely on independent media to ask the types of questions that you're going to hear answers for as we cover this story. So before we start on her views, on Elissa Slotkin's views, I think it's kind of important to give you a bit of a bio. Who is she? What does she represent? What has she done in her career prior to getting elected in office? Well, before starting her first term as a United States Senator this year, she was a congresswoman between the years of 2019 and 2025. She was inaugurated this year actually or sworn in this year to serve as her first term as US Senator. She represented Michigan's 7th district when she was serving in the House. She also worked for the CIA as an analyst and a Department of Defense official. During the George W. Bush administration, she worked on the Iraq portfolio for the National Security Council. Fun. And from 2015 to 2017, Slotkin was acting assistant secretary of defense for international security affairs, where one of her responsibilities was securing Israel's qualitative military edge. Now, as we go through all these various clips from the interview, I just want you to keep in the back of your mind the fact that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican, someone who we have been pretty vicious toward on this show, was the first Republican congresswoman to call what's happening in Gaza a genocide. And she did so in the context of skewering her Republican colleague in the House, Randy Fine. I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we hear from a Democratic lawmaker about what's currently transpiring in Gaza and the behavior of Israel and the IDF. Now look, she has consistently voted in favor of Israel or in favor of things that Israel wants. She's consistently voted yes to more military aid to Israel and opposes conditioning US security aid to Israel. So offensive weapons, no problem, we're not gonna condition it. She has voted in favor of a resolution to essentially equate anti-Zionism or criticism of the Israeli government to anti-Semitism. She did vote in favor of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. And she, of course, opposes the boycott, divest movement, otherwise known as BDS. Now, with all of that in mind, maybe you'll understand why it is that she wants to downplay the severity of not only what's happening in Gaza, but the severity of anger that many Americans, especially Democratic voters, are feeling in regard to what's transpiring in Gaza. Because remember, we're funding it. Whether you want to support it or not, you have no choice. Okay, your tax dollars are funding the slaughter that's currently taking place in Gaza as we speak. So with that in mind, let's see how serious Slotkin finds this to be.
While, I would love to debate you on your healthcare policy. I think we need Medicare for all. You think public option, your housing policy, et cetera. I'm just being really real with you. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza.
One of the proudest moments that I had in my last election, where I just won on the same ballot as Donald Trump, was that I won a majority of Jewish voters in Michigan. We have a large Jewish population. And I won Dearborn Heights, and Hamtramck, the 3 Muslim-dominated cities. I'm a Middle East analyst by training. And so what I tried to do, and why I think I managed to win both those communities, is call balls and strikes, literally up to this week. But it's not the only issue that my voters in Michigan care about.
Of course.
And the online world is extremely focused on this, but that doesn't always represent the majority. But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40.
Wow, you won your election. That's great. What does that have to do with your views on what's happening in Gaza? And you call balls and strikes. What balls and strikes are you calling? You consistently support anything and everything Israel wants. Sure, there might be some rhetorical pushback, but you can take that rhetorical pushback and you can shove it. It's as relevant and as valuable as the rhetorical pushback Joe Biden engaged in as Israel was carrying out, the initial phases of its ethnic cleansing slaughter campaign in Gaza. What balls and strikes? Show me an example of Slotkin in any way, through her actions, checking the Israeli government. Because I haven't seen it. And to say, most Americans don't really care about this issue. You're trying to downplay it? The American government right now is literally taking resources out of the pockets of hardworking Americans, whether they like it or not, and funneling it to a terroristic government who's carrying out the ethnic cleansing and genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. They're literally building a concentration camp as we speak. Okay, the days of trying to let me tiptoe around this. Let me try to strategize around this. Let me not upset people who, for whatever reason, live in the United States but think Israel is the most important thing in the world. Let me not upset those folks. No, now is the time. Now is the time to ask yourself whether you have a moral compass or not. And honestly, after watching this interview, no moral compass, especially as it pertains to Israel. It's disgusting. So she's also lying, and you'll notice that it's a theme throughout this conversation. We'll get to her other lies in a minute, but since she's talking about the fact that most voters don't care, it's not even in their top 40. It's not even in their top 40. Really, it's not? Okay. Well, how do Democratic voters feel about what's happening in Gaza right now? Turns out the latest Gallup poll found that, oh wow, actually, no, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not that bad. It's just that only 8% of Democratic voters support what the Israeli government is doing. So 32% of Americans, let's put it back up. So only 32% of Americans approve of Israel's military action taken in Gaza. That's actually down 10 percentage points since last September. So only a minority of American voters overall support what's going on. But when it comes to Democrats, only 8% support Israel's actions. The lowest approval rating to date. Compare that to 25% of independents and, sadly, a robust 71% of Republicans. Turn off the Fox News. Your government's taking money out of your pocket and funneling it for the mass slaughter of children. You want to talk about being pro-life? How is it pro-life when your money is supporting the slaughter of countless children in Gaza? Unbelievable, but anyway, not a big deal. Most people don't care. Most people don't have strong thoughts about this, not even in their top 40. Elissa Slotkin is really concerned about the economy. She wants to make the economy better for Michiganders. I mean, she hasn't really proven it in her time in the House of Representatives or her short stint in the Senate so far. But I care about the economy is a great, it's a great talking point to pivot to when you don't want to talk about the fact that you're aiding and abetting the slaughter of innocent people in Gaza. But we have more. So the political angle, I just want to be clear, really does pale in comparison to the moral bankruptcy of continuing to support Israel's slaughter campaign. That's what I think. So a lot of these politicians, they're only thinking about, okay, well, how is this gonna affect me politically? And I know that's what Elissa Slotkin is thinking about. It's what every politician is thinking about. God forbid, for a second, they allow themselves to have a principled or moral view of something that's happening in the world. But again, the moral bankruptcy of it all, to me, is a big deal. So is Slotkin willing to ever do anything to check Israel? And I'm really glad that that question was asked in the context of this interview. So let's take a look at what she had to say about that.
You have backed Israel, as far as I can tell, from your voting record at almost every turn. You voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, by your own words. So are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now, Democrats own nothing in Washington. So
don't play powerless with me. You're a United States senator. There are things you can do.
There really isn't much to add to that because I think Krystal did a good job responding to her pathetic answer by saying, "Don't play powerless with me." I mean, it's just hilarious. Just a second ago, Senator Slotkin was bragging about her big accomplishment in getting the majority of Jews and Arabs in her state to support her for her Senate seat. I'm so big and powerful. I did such an amazing job getting elected. Look at me. Oh, you want me to do something? I have no power. I have no power. I'm just a United States senator. Okay. Slotkin had a pretty bad response to a question about whether or not she supports continuing to send military aid to Israel, especially since, rhetorically she has pushed back a little bit. She did call Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal. Now, if I think someone's a war criminal and I'm representing people either as a senator or a member of the House of Representatives, I would never in a million years take money out of the pockets of my constituents and then funnel it to the war criminal. But what about Slotkin? Would she do that?
But will you cut off aid to Israel so long as they're committing crimes against humanity?
There is a difference between a weapon to protect a country from incoming missiles versus other type. Offensive and defensive weapons are different.
So would you support offensive weapons ban? Like, would you stop any offensive aid to Israel?
That certainly, to me, would be a place to look, but I'm not gonna cut off a blanket next sale on a defensive weapon that comes through. No.
I also reject that because, for example, if Senator Slotkin, if you were asked to support defensive weapons for Iran, defensive weapons for Russia, you wouldn't back that.
No, but Iran, but
they're defensive. They're just protecting civilians, right?
Right.
So how is it different?
But because Israel's being shot at.
Well, so is Russia.
So is Iran. So is Russia.
Ukraine's shooting at Russia right now.
I'm sorry. This is the difference between allies, partners, and adversaries.
So
what
if
they're
Nazi
doing
Germany,
every single day,
if Nazi Germany said we want defensive aid, it's just you have to see where they're all weapons that are being shipped. In another context,
the weapons that they're using right now, to be honest, if you look at what's happening on the ground, the military part of this conflict is, for the most part, over. What they are doing,
Senator,
every single day is around aid.
Okay, I want to be clear about Senator Slotkin. She will continue to vote yes on every bill to send more military aid to Israel, whether it has to do with defensive weaponry or offensive weaponry. Okay, it doesn't matter. She's gonna vote yes, and her voting record shows she is in favor. Okay, she will vote yes. Now, putting that aside, let's just briefly discuss defensive weapons. Now, I'm on the record months ago, last year, saying that I support continuing, providing what's needed for the Iron Dome, providing what's needed in terms of defensive weaponry. I have since changed my mind, and this is a perfect opportunity to talk about that. The reason why I've changed my mind is because I do believe that Israel is carrying out a genocide right now. And I do equate the current Israeli government to Nazis. Why would I want to provide resources to a regime like that is essentially carrying out the mass slaughter of innocent people, not just in Gaza, not just in the West Bank, but also in neighboring countries? They've bombed Syria, they've bombed Lebanon. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And guess what? Why do they feel emboldened to do that? Because they can do it with impunity. Israel gets to operate on the international stage very differently than everyone else. They are held to a much lower standard. What international laws? What war crimes? No, Israel's special. They get to do whatever they want. And there are never any consequences. Now, usually any other country on the international stage would know if you attack another sovereign country, there's very likely gonna be blowback. Okay, that information, that fear, that prediction usually plays into the equation and the decision making. With Israel, we just keep fueling, the war with, enhancing their defensive capabilities, so they get to do whatever they want. They get to attack whoever they want. They get to kill whoever they want with no consequences, ever. And I'm not okay with that. So I am 100% against funding anything for Israel at this point. If they care about their civilians, maybe they would rethink what they've been carrying out. Maybe they would rethink attacking their neighbors. Maybe they would reconsider openly bragging about starving innocent people to death, as Bezalel Smotrich and Ben Gvir so openly do on a regular basis. But right now, they're not reconsidering that. They're acting like unhinged genocidal lunatics because we have empowered them to do so. Now, maybe Slotkin feels this way because she doesn't see the mass slaughter that the IDF is engaging in for what it really is. And this part of the conversation made that clear to me.
Is it
so
a
that
genocide?
People don't starve. I don't know that I'd use that term,
Why?
but it is violating the law of war.
Why don't you use the term though?
Because I think, it's, to me, do I think it's ethnic cleansing, which is what I think of in genocide? I don't know if it meets that definition.
They're announcing
but didn't you say it earlier that it was ethnic cleansing? You said that they wanted to force it. I mean, this is open from the Israeli government. Like, they're saying it. Their Minister of National Security, they come out and they're like, we don't need shells. We need shells, not food, and we need to encourage migration. They're saying it.
You're not going to get me to support what the Israeli government is saying right now. Right. I think the point I was trying to make is it's not just about we have relationships with nations over time, regardless of who their leaders are.
That was a great catch by Saagar Enjeti because she did call it ethnic cleansing earlier in the interview when it was convenient for her to do so. But then, it came up again and it was inconvenient for her. What am I gonna do? You have two humanitarian organizations within Israel, B'Tselem being one of them, by the way, who have now called this a genocide. You have an Israeli genocide scholar who we covered on the show just last week or the week before, calling this what it is, a genocide. A scholar, an Israeli scholar. He wrote a piece about it, an opinion piece in the New York Times, which I hope you all read. You have two former Israeli prime ministers who were not doves, who committed war crimes of their own, calling this what it is. But you can't get a Democratic senator to at least call it ethnic cleansing, which, by the way, the Israeli government is openly announcing. They're openly announcing it. Now, I'm pretty black-pilled at this point. I think people in the audience, and I don't blame you for this, everyone goes through their own journey, and I think a lot of you are actually gonna get to where I'm at right now, and I don't envy you because it's a pretty dark place. But I'm so black-pilled that the parties mean nothing to me, nothing. Democrat, Republican, who cares? They mean nothing to me, okay? And the reason why they mean nothing to me is because of, honestly, the kind of crap that I heard from Bernie Sanders today in his interview with Caitlin Collins. he has the right ideas. He wants to stop funding the weapons toward Israel. I mean, the defensive weapons I'm curious about, but nonetheless, policy-wise, but he doesn't want to call it a genocide. You can't respond to it effectively unless you call it what it is, unless you understand the real severity of it. But who knows, maybe Senator Sanders and maybe Senator Slotkin just know better than the Israeli genocide scholar who was willing to call what's happening in Gaza what it is. And it is real pathetic when someone I have admired in the political space for so long, Senator Bernie Sanders, gets outflanked by the likes of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who on the House floor called out Israel's apartheid. And just this week, in her scathing response to that disgusting, grotesque Republican Congressman Randy Fine, referred to what's happening in Gaza as a genocide. Where is this country's moral compass? That's what I want to know. Finally, she meaning Senator Slotkin, engaged in a bit of a lie about where she gets her money from, how her campaigns are funded. Let's take a quick look at that.
Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that I know plenty of people who think they should. You know, I don't.
It's kind of a cop-out answer, don't you think?
I mean, yeah. I literally, I just guess I'd have to look at the definition. I certainly have had my tough moments with that organization, and
so you stop accepting their funding.
You gotta get your facts straight. I have not been endorsed by AIPAC. I have not. I'm sorry. I was the first Jew elected to the Senate that was not endorsed by any Jewish group. AIPAC, J Street.
You've been the recipient of their funds.
In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, yes, but I've not been endorsed since then.
You know, telling Krystal Ball that she needs to get her facts straight is rich, especially as Senator Slotkin is just lying to everyone's faces. So she makes it seem as though she received some campaign contributions from AIPAC back in 2018, but she had a real rough go at things. You know, she had a tough relationship with them. You know, they probably didn't fund her after that, except they did. And it wasn't just about AIPAC. When it comes to the Israel lobby, AIPAC of course gets a lot of attention because it's the biggest. But there's all sorts of other groups, pro-Israel groups, that fund our politicians. So let's talk a little bit about how much Elissa Slotkin, throughout her political career, has received from the Israel lobby. Oh, so there you go. $656,095. Nice. So up through March of this year, that's how much money she has received from the lobby. Now, who knows? Maybe she was telling the truth. Maybe that was all the money she received up until 2018, and then after that it was over. Except no, that's not the case. So she took in quite a bit of money from the Israel lobby in 2022. Fascinating. So apparently she took in $85,550 from J Street PAC, $22,000 from the Pro-Israel America PAC, and $14,906 from the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Nice. Meaning that she was, of course, taking cash from the Israel lobby well after 2021, in 2022. So those campaign contributions, I mean, they pay off, and her voting record makes that abundantly clear. Since the war started, Elissa Slotkin has voted for measures to fund Israel's military, impose sanctions on the International Criminal Court over arrest warrants for Israeli officials, including the very official that she has referred to as a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister. She's a loathsome, pathetic person. What do you stand for, Slotkin? You're gonna do an interview where you pretend like you give a damn about the economy? What the hell have you done for the economy? What the hell have you done to improve the lives of Michiganders? Pathetic. Let me read the rest of that graphic for you. She forbid the State Department to cite statistics from the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry and equate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. That's who Elissa Slotkin is. Now, there was an interesting headline in the news today. I don't really care about it. It's not really gonna go anywhere. I think it's just meant for positive PR, and I'm not gonna give it to her. But she is part of a group of congressional Democrats who have introduced the Ban Corporate PACs Act. The legislation would ban corporations from establishing and managing a PAC or soliciting contributions from stakeholders and eliminate existing corporate PACs. They know it's not gonna go anywhere. I doubt they're even gonna try to fight for it to see if maybe they can get some Republicans on board to pass it in the Senate. It's not going anywhere. Let's not be stupid. And I don't know if this was done in an effort to maybe launder Slotkin's reputation after she was essentially embarrassed with that shellacking on Breaking Points, but she should be embarrassed. Because when you make clear to everyone else in the world, when you make clear to your constituents, when you make clear to Democrats, Democratic voters, that you have no moral compass, you have no actual values, and you're just gonna go along with the status quo, even though the status quo means mass slaughter of innocents, there's no BS bill that's gonna launder your reputation, okay? Politicians like that are dead to me. I don't know about you guys. You can write in and let me know, but that's where I'm at with Elissa Slotkin. And great job by Breaking Points. They asked the right questions. It was a fantastic interview. We'll include a link in the description box so you can watch the entirety of the conversation.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.